All right, so I'm gonna talk about the psionic shield tech. So that part of what I want to talk about today is the formulas and the theory that I'm coming up with here. And so there's these things called spin waves that another fellow genius man who's really well versed in anti-mind control technology, Fred. He was telling me about spin waves. I never heard of them. And, you know, I do a deep dive into it for a day or two, and now I realize, okay, my knowledge of ferrofluids brings into this point where you could probably create a ferrofluid layer that absorbs spin waves, even if they're scalar. And I'm like, okay, well, if they are scalar, how do you polarize them in such a way to make it so that they would have to stick in a certain direction, and that can be an anchor point. So that's what I'm building here. I'm building something that can stop EMF scalar spin waves that are mind control waves that are causing the global kind of V2K issue. But whatever it is, it's not running in these frequencies. It's running on some other frequencies. So I'm gonna have to figure more stuff out. I know there's papers on it. I just haven't, I haven't necessarily gotten that far. And so I'm going to have to look to some more documents, because it's not going to be this. It's a different tech. It's similar though, and so I just have to figure out which one it is. And I'm thinking, for some reason, my intuition is buzzing that I have to learn how the toroidal antennas work. Somebody posted that the toroidal antennas work like what's called a magnet. What was those things? The thing that beeps when you're looking for buried treasure. A metal detector. Yeah. And so I didn't realize that these are for metal detectors, but that's exactly what they are. But they also can be used as an antenna for other functionalities, and I can also use them as a directional projectional antenna for scalar beams, because they're double helixal, which means that they're wrapped one way and then they're wrapped the opposite way. And so I'm gonna have to figure out exactly all of the math and theory behind that. But I got a pretty solid grasp of it. I printed these out a long time ago. What the idea is that we need to, it's not about blocking and then absorbing it. I don't think that's gonna really necessarily work. And if you do that, it could either heat up, and eventually that would change the nature of it, maybe spin it too much, and eventually they'll just get through anyway. So the idea is have two connected like this, where you have one coil. I know this isn't a scalar coil, but I'm on a 2D paper here, so I'm doing what I can. And so you have this one coil that takes the absorption, transfers it over, processes it. Oh, you know what? Let me just get these properly connected so that it's look a little better. That's a little better. I can draw that. Anyway, and these would be capacitors, so they can operate as electroabsorbers. And so when it goes through this, it comes through here. These capacitors then allow higher level ones, like maybe even like deadly beams, to be processed through what's called supercapacitors, an array of supercapacitors, and then it can just kind of come out the other side. And so that's what I'm thinking I'm going to do here. So the idea is that it comes through here. We don't see the connection bridge. This is the connection bridge. So this connection bridge comes over here, and then so it goes here, connection bridge, shoop, and then comes out the other side, ramp. And so that way it wraps around your head. And what's happening here is that these two lines here are coils for scalar wave. They're scalar type coils. They're helical coils, double helical coils. And then this layer here is going to be the ferrofluid. The ferrofluid absorbs the spin waves, which then that translates directly to the copper coils here. The copper coils, which are in here, then translate over, and then this is reversed, and then that can then be projected back out. And I would imagine that this would be the projector out. And so they bring it in and then project it out. And so that's one of the ideas. And I'm just kind of exploring it. Here's another idea, is that it can just come through here, and then the coils then connect, copper coils connect, and then the other coils here, and then grafts out. So it goes it goes in and then out here, in, out here, without disturbing this area. And so that's the idea. We're basically trying to create this pocket zone where it's safe from any of these kind of EMF frequencies. And what I also want to do is to create this big, hold on, right? So it's like kind of like this suction cone. So it's not like, oh, it just hits this. No, it's active. So it can actually create this funneling area. So anything within this larger funnel zone spirals down directly into this spot, then does the same thing and basically just projects it out. And so now that would actually have this much larger impact. These could pretty much do the same, like that. And then I'm not really necessarily sure what I want to do with the pylons, but the pylons are definitely much more of these directional longer antenna for different types of frequencies that are coming from above. And so I think what I'm doing here is trying to create some sort of spiral. A lot of what I do is intuition based. So it's like an art, and then I apply science afterwards and then just kind of see what sticks and what doesn't. So if it doesn't make sense mathematically, then I toss it aside and into the cool but not practical pile. And then I take something from the practical pile and then I try to make it look cool. And hopefully I can make it look like the way I want it to look. And so that's how I'm doing that. And then I'm learning more about like just kind of simple calculus math. And so for example, right here is a simple calculus math where this represents a matrix of 2 dimensions. And so it's like a plane. And so whenever you see not just 1 letter, but 2 letters here, that implies that the sigma is a plane. This is like in programming, we call this a for loop or a while loop. It's a loop. And these are like the parameters that it's looping through and how those are happening. And then you do that again. This is a single loop, and so this is like a line. And so these visualizations are something I'm going to start doing a lot more to not just help me, but to help other people when I'm teaching them how to do this math and how this technology all works. Now this formula, it has to do with calculating spin waves. And this is for the Hamiltonian. This has to all do with the amount of energy and how the spin propagates across a ferromagnetic surface. And then I have all of these things that I have to look up. I already started looking up some of them, and it's really nice that we now have ChatGPT because I can look up like this, and I don't even know what this was. I forgot what this is. I'm gonna have to relook it up. But I looked up this Ising model, and I was like, oh, that's probably super complicated. And then I look it up, and it's like super basic description. All you got to do is say, explain Ising model like I'm 16 years old. And then, it doesn't do it like with baby time talk. It does it with like good enough teenager talk. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I get it. And I usually have all of these issues where they specify these equations. And so unless you are super well versed in all that kind of stuff, I'm just not. I'm a programmer, and I learned all the, I know a lot of how to do all of this in programming. But then when I have to like read these formulas in this crazy esoteric language based on Greek and Latin symbology, I'm just like, blah. And so once again, that's why I'm trying to learn like universal symbology. So right here's an example of me applying universal symbology to phasics. And so what that means is that phases are basically just angles around a circle. It's fractional angles around a circle. And I can hear them as well. Do you have to use all this esoteric terminology? And it's like, no, I don't. I really don't have to do that. The whole point of universal symbology is to remove the esoteric nature of it, the occulting, the hiding of the truth using corruption, by simply just being direct and honest and upfront about it, so everybody who's like a layman like can just understand it, because we can. They get it. They understand that like you'd have like this kind of pool, and you can have like this spiral energy that kind of flops into the pool, and then the pool creates a bunch of little spirals as it goes and just creates a bunch of vortexes, spins. Like it's kind of what happens with weather patterns on Earth. And so like that's another way that spin waves propagate. That's kind of like how storms, like spiral storms, like hurricanes happen. It's a little more complicated than that, but that's okay, because we're not trying to get complicated. We're trying to be universal and easy to understand. So anyway, that's that for today. Good lessons. How'day.